Good morning, everyone. Part two on your property is a development site. Now it's time to pick the agent. Today, I'm going to give you some tips on what to look for on how to choose the agent to sell a development site. Stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Morning Minutes. Myself, Michael Burgio, here at Novak Properties, technically part two, episode 1464. You've listened to part one where you found out your site is a development site and it's worth pursuing to try and sell it to a developer. Part two this morning is how to pick that agent and what to look for when going down this path, because a lot of people put a lot of real estate agents just in the same box. Yeah, you're all real estate agents, and you can bring that analogy down to teachers at school. You've got your maths teachers, your history teachers, your English teachers, and very similar to selling development sites with real estate agents. I think some of the categories. So if you're in your local area, you would have your typical real estate agent that would be selling secondhand, so already established apartments, houses. So that's one category. Another category would be your commercial agents who would be selling your warehouses, retail shops, office buildings. Then you've got your off-the-plan specialists. Now they're selling, which is sometimes confused with agents who can sell development sites, are the agents who are selling the brand new units off the plan. I'm sure if you look in your local area, there will only ever be a couple agents selling the brand new stock, very different to your agent selling your secondhand stock. Now, where does development sites fit into all those categories? Now, a lot of the time you can look at the portals themselves. If you look at realestate.com, so that's where your typical residential agent would list properties to sell, there isn't even a marker that says to sell development sites. You've actually got to go onto the commercial portal, Real Commercial, to see a development tab, land and development, which would heavily insinuate the agents who can handle a development site best would be your commercial agent. And there's many reasons for that. A lot of it comes down to when you're selling a commercial property, it's very much by the numbers, the size of the property, the zoning of the land, what would building costs be. Even on a typical warehouse sale, you're running feasibilities, getting understanding of zoning, and then you're doing that same on a development site. Just like in part one, where we checked the zoning, we checked the height limit, we worked out the GFA. That's what a typical commercial agent does on most properties, because, for example, if we're getting a block in Brookvale to sell, 1,000 square meters in the industrial zoning, unlike a residential agent where you've got a house to sell, where you just list that property on the market, on the portals, a house is a house. It may sell to an investor. It may sell to a family who's going to occupy the property themselves. But a great commercial agent and a developer agent, when they get 1,000 square meter block in Brookvale, you look at the zoning and you go, okay, this property could be great for a gym. This property could be great for a brewery. This could be just a good storage unit development. You're running feasibilities on properties just on your normal day of life. Very foreign to a residential agent selling a house. So when it comes to development sites and you want to engage an agent to make sure the numbers you did match up the potential numbers within the area, it's very it's not simple, but it's very common for a commercial agent to run those processes. And typically, especially on the northern beaches, any development sites being sold are going on your major commercial platforms, real commercial real estate, and there's a couple smaller ones out there as well. So first step when picking an agent to sell your development site is find out the right agent. You don't want to be getting your history teacher to do your maths homework type of thing. So once you've found the right agent, you also need to do your own due diligence on, have they sold similar properties in the past? Now, a lot of developments can be done off market. So the first point of call would be checking out that agent's profile on Real Commercial is the main platform. So I'd go straight to Real Commercial. You can type in the area, say Northern Beaches. You could type in Blacktown, type in the suburb, and just go and sort it out by sold and see how many development sites they have sold. Now, you don't need to get too specific like you would in residential, where it would be you only sell apartments. How can you sell a house? With development sites, a storage unit development site, a residential house development site, or apartments all sort of fall into the same category, especially on the northern beaches where we don't have massive amount of volume, where you see a lot in the city where agents, especially in the commercial world, will be, I just specialize in warehouses, I just specialize in retail shops. You can't really do that on the northern beaches. One part I love about doing commercial and developments on the northern beaches is 1 minute I can be showing a $200,000 storage unit. Next minute you're doing a $20 million development site. And then the other minute you're showing a new restaurant going in on the beachfront. So there's lots of variety. It's very exciting, but it gives, as an agent, a very broad knowledge pool to extract from when I'm talking to owners. Because once you've picked that agent who may confirm the zoning with you, confirm the build cost, a big part of knowing which agent to pick comes down to what those units would sell for. Because one of the biggest factors on what a developer will pay for your land is what they believe they can sell the units for after. So if you can get an agent who, one, has experience selling the development sites, which is more unique to your typical residential property transaction, a lot of the time a development site will be sold via expressions of interest. And there's lots of things I've learned, and here at Novak we've learned over the years when doing those campaigns, just from the form we ask developers to fill out, where we want to know, are we the person negotiating with us? Are they the decision maker? A lot of the time, the person who's viewing the property isn't the person signing the checks. So it's very important to know that you're negotiating with that person. Another key part during that expression of interest form after the campaign, you want to know, where's the money being sourced? Are they getting the money from Commonwealth Bank, which would be a massive tick from the big four? Are they use it private lending, which is still great. So a lot of those questions. But one of the most important things that your agent needs to have experience on with these campaigns is, once the campaign has finished, how quick will they exchange on contracts? We've all seen in our marketplace where you see a development site on the market, expression of interest, you see it ended 3 weeks ago and you still see no sold sign. And you're like, what's going on? And through stories, through experience, I've seen it where the buyer who was the highest after the expression of interest delayed, nearly 3 weeks go past, and then they pull out. And you can all imagine, if you did an auction campaign and the highest bidder doesn't go through and it's 3 weeks later, you go back to the underbidder, they're gone. They've bought something else. They've lost interest. All that momentum through that campaign has just gone. So it's very important through that EOI campaign to know when will they exchange, and you give them a deadline, 5 days, 10 days, and have that underbidder consistent dialogue with them. Because from a lot of the time, agents will think, my job's done the EOI, got the form signed, send it off to the lawyers, and next minute I'm just going to get the call that it's sold. It's definitely not the case. You need to be working it harder after the expressions of interest. But back to another key component is the resale value. Because if you're put yourself in a developer's shoes, you're being told a price on the land, you would have a good understanding on what you can build that block for. But the question mark is what those units would sell for. Now, if the agent representing that sale has no experience in residential, no experience with off the plan, that developer, they'll listen to that agent, but they're going to seek other voices to know what they think those units will sell for. And you can't control those voices. You don't even know if they call someone qualified. For example, the market may be 25,000 a square meter, and they call an agent who sells a lot of established residential, who typically don't even talk in square meter rates, going, oh, I think it'd be 15, and it turns that developer off buying that block. You would hope, as I said, there's categories, traditional established agent, commercial development, and off the plan sales. You would hope the developer would call someone who does off the plan sales, who would be able to ideally confidently say, you can get 25,000 a square meter. But if when you're selecting an agent, you have the ability to choose a company that does all those facets of real estate, that is a powerful tool to when selling the block to get you the highest price. Other key things would be, I think that covers it. You want to know you're picking an agent that does development sites, and that can be easily verified by asking them. But you want to confirm. I've recently come across another agent, and all the sales they said they had done, they didn't give the address out. They just gave like a street and a price. But I had checked that street, no sale there. So I'd never come across that before. I can't believe they would put that in there. But from an owner, don't just trust the agent says they sold something in Smith Street for 10 million. Ask for the evidence on RP data, which RP data is a nation-run system where they work with land titles. So any property sale, it's there typically after settlement. So there can be a bit of delay from when you see a sold sticker on the board to when it's with land titles. But you want to confirm they've sold properties similar to yours, and you want to confirm it they've done public campaigns as well. An agent with a 20-year career doing one development site off market to their buddy can make it look like they have a great resume. But if you're looking to run an expansive public campaign, you want to know they've done that. And the best way to do that is check like real commercial real estate. Another thing you want to make sure is they've got an understanding of the feasibility we discussed in part 1 of the video, because a developer, when looking at your property, they're going to try and bring that price as low as they can. Just like you as the owner want the highest price for your block, they want to buy it for the lowest price. So if that agent doesn't understand the build cost, floor space ratios, and a lot of that terminology, a developer can say, oh, I can't build it for less than 14,000 a square meter. That's why I'm paying X amount. And if the agent knows what they're talking about, they've got good relationship with other developers, they can push back and be like, Jim for X amount, or all other feedback is Y. So it allows to keep that conversation going, because I hear it all the time where good clients of mine love buying properties from agents who typically don't understand the commercial world or understand the development world, because it's very different to the typical residential sale. They're different. What makes you great in a traditional residential sale does not mean it'll make you great in a commercial or a development sale. There's like teaching history, teaching maths. So I think that covers it today. If there's any questions out there on you may be deciding between two agents and just want to run it past me, happy to help. You may have a development site on the northern beaches. Here at Novak, one of our best advantages is we have a dominant sector in all of those categories that I discussed today, dominant in the secondhand residential market, commercial, development, off the plan. We can cover all those boxes. So instead of you, the owner, meeting with 3 different agents to try and get information on all parts of the development world, you can just come meet with us and we can go from there. But thank you very much. Cheers.